Guys, thank you so much for watching Real Estate Insider today. I have a very special guest on my show today. I've been watching him for a while from afar on YouTube. He has a great channel. You guys have to check out Jeb Smith on YouTube. I love his show. He is a top producing multi-million-dollar realtor in Orange County, California. Mr. Jeb Smith, I will let you take the floor. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Real Estate Insider, my friend.
No, I appreciate it, Angelo, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So, as you know, I'm in the lending side of the game in the real estate business, and you're an awesome realtor. Like I said, I love your show. I love what you're doing. And I like to know, because whenever we pre-approve customers, we do a lot of business in Orange County already. We don't have an approved realtor in that area. So I wanted to reach out to you because I want to make a relationship connection with you and send some of our clients over to you. So we'd like to know, who is Jeb Smith? Tell us about, what you're doing, what you have going on, and how did you get into the real estate world?
Gotcha. So actually a North Carolina native, moved to California in early 2000s and got right into the real estate business. In fact, was on the lending side like you for over 10 years, ran a mortgage company, started on the mortgage side, kind of worked my way up, opened my own mortgage company, had loan officers, did the whole thing. And at the same time, got my business from real estate agents, a lot like what you're doing now. And through that process, realized I liked the real estate side a lot more than I liked the mortgage side of things. And over time transitioned 100% into real estate. Through that, I've been in the business almost 18 years this year, and went through the last financial crisis, if you will, through 2007 through 2010, 11. And, was fortunate enough to stay busy between lending and real estate. But through that time, learned a lot about the business through the foreclosure market. I had accounts set up through Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. And that's, the big guys at that time. And was fortunate enough to do a lot of foreclosure activity during the meltdown, if you will. So I was able to experience a lot of different areas in Orange County. As somebody now that focuses 100% relationally on my business, I'm fortunate that I can help a lot of different people in different areas, because through that time I got to go into different cities. In different markets, different neighborhoods that I probably would have never seen before without having that experience. And then the one thing that taught me, more so than anything is just, we're going into a different market right now, right? It's been a great market since 2011, 2012. We've kind of been on this incline for some time. And then this year we had one of those black swan events, if you will, right, that's kind of changed the market. Right. And I think a lot of people are starting to compare this market to what we saw in that market. And I know you've been in the business a long time, as well as I have. And we went through that time. And to me, there's a lot of differences in that market versus the market that we're experiencing now. And a lot of what you've seen on YouTube outside of, the educational videos I do on different topics is my talks on, the foreclosure crisis, quote unquote, if you will, the foreclosure waves, the housing crisis, and all of that. And my goal through this whole thing has always been to provide some education to people, help guide them through the process. I want to be, somebody that, I'm not there to just sell you any home to tell you to buy a house, or, that's the downside of being a real estate agent on YouTube or anywhere else, is that everyone thinks that you're just in it to sell somebody a house, that you're always going to tell people to buy, you're always going to tell people to sell. And there are different times. There are times when it's great to be a buyer. There are times when it's great to be a seller. It's not always a great time to buy. It's not always a great time to sell. And what I've tried to do here is provide education and just let people know what's happening in the market, because it's hard to get good information. It's hard to get information from somebody that's out there actually doing the business, not just a face and somebody that wasn't successful in the business, so they decided to do a YouTube channel or what have you. I'm coming from you as somebody that's successful in the business, that's helping buyers, sellers, but also there to provide some education. And that's always been the goal, through the channel, man. And like I said, I appreciate you reaching out and giving me an opportunity to just chat.
Absolutely.
Provide a little, my experience with your clients.
Right. So basically, and then I'm curious to see, so you've been in the active real estate market in Orange County as a realtor for the last 8 years?
18, basically. I mean, I've had my real estate license the whole time, so I was doing both.
You're
but I've really focused on real estate for probably the last 10 has really been my primary focus.
And what are you seeing right now in Orange County? What's kind of the trend?
Wow. Price appreciation, big time. Home prices are getting more expensive as they are probably in your market, as I know they are in your market. In fact, the biggest thing we're seeing right now is that affordability is becoming more of an issue. Not affordability in the sense that, you just got people that the entry level is more or less gone. In our market. It's non-existent. It's very difficult to find something under, and this is going to seem insane depending on who's watching it and what market, but it's hard to find anything good under 600,000. I mean, it's really crazy. And, we're seeing, as a buyer, we're seeing multiple offers on most properties that are priced fairly to start. As a seller, if you're priced correctly from the get-go, you're likely getting multiple offers when you're selling property. So it's one of those markets where, it's great to be a seller. It's really tough to be a buyer. And my guess is you're probably going to see that for, the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Let me ask you, I had a client, about 2 weeks ago. She was approved for $850. Anyway, it was a multiple offer situation, and the house closed at like $940, and the listing was for like $853, and it blew my mind. Like I called her the next day, like after the weekend, hey, did you get the offer? She said no. Someone bid up over 100,000 over ask on the I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, this is insane.
Honestly, yeah, it's normal. I can give you a perfect example here. I have a property in Santa Ana, California, which is, in Orange County. It's out of all of the cities in Orange County, it's probably the in the bottom tier of value, which doesn't mean it's inexpensive. It's just less than the other cities in Orange County. And, it's a property that we priced. It's a single family home. It's about 1,400 square feet, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, has a pool. Been updated on the inside, nothing crazy, but most buyers would probably change some things on a 6,000 square foot lot. And we priced it at 630. And it's probably fair value, right? We thought the market was probably fair market value, 620, 630, maybe push up a little bit, just depending on the market. Got an offer at 700,000. We had 13 offers. We stopped taking offers after 2 days just because it was starting to get crazy. We had cash offers in there, but we had one offer that was at 700,000 with an appraisal waiver. We got the DU that came through, so their desktop underwriting, their pre-approval came from their lender, and it had the appraisal waiver noted in it. Mm-hmm. And as part of our negotiation back to them, we negotiated a couple of different things with regards to repairs and value up front, but they got the appraisal waiver. So on this particular property, they're paying $70,000 over the asking price. No appraisal. It's one of those things that in my eyes, I don't know they would have appraised. To be completely honest. But that's what we're seeing in this market. People are doing things that I don't necessarily recommend in some cases. But in this market, that's what they have to do in order to make things happen.
Okay. Now let me ask, because you're a smart guy, and I know you follow the market. And I'm just, when I hear that, what is the ripple effects of that in the long term?
I talked about that. In fact, in a video I did a little while ago, probably a week ago or 2 weeks ago, is I talked about the appraisal waiver. That to me scares me more than anything else. It scares me more than a potential foreclosure wave coming. It just because what it's doing in my eyes is it pushes up values a lot faster than the market could. It's artificially pushing up values. And I don't know if your clients know what an appraisal waiver is, but essentially the bank more or less waives the appraisal, right? They do an AVM, some sort of automated value on the property, and they say, okay, value's there. You don't need an appraisal. And chances are I think most lenders need a certain down payment, good credit score. So it's not for anyone. It's not for somebody putting 5% down, right? There's certain requirements that have to be met, but in my eyes, what it does is it pushes values up quicker than what would happen if appraisals were there, because now that becomes a new comp, right? It doesn't necessarily change the neighborhood values, but it's a comparable that people can use to justify values going forward. And Now the next one may be listed 710, 715. And then, so what happens at that point? And so, and then when the AVMs pull that particular property, that they're going to pull that comp that closed for 700. And there's no way for the automated underwriting engines or value models to know that an appraisal waiver was given in those cases. So they take it at face value. And that scares me a little bit because I see values going up almost too fast. I mean, in some markets, on some of these houses, it just, the comps, the values are getting reset every day, every week. So it's going to be interesting, man. I just, and we've talked about the foreclosure stuff, and that to me is one thing, because those are numbers and you can tell exactly what's, kind of happening in those arenas. But with this sort of thing, it's hard to know what's actually happening.
Right. Yeah. I keep thinking about like a stock market or tulip mania and something, but I mean, I think with I guess Orange County or in some of these hot spots in California, I mean, real estate is fixed. You're going to run out of a certain amount of land. And I mean, I've seen this we land in Hawaii too. And I mean, some of this stuff, I mean, on one hand, I can see the justification for the values. But I don't know. I mean,
when you have 13 people willing to pay, not necessarily that price, but I mean, there were a lot within 10 grand, 15 grand of that offer. So either way, we would have gotten something close to that more than likely. Even if it didn't appraise, somebody probably would have come in with the cash and made the difference. So in that case, it's a little bit different because they're actually, there's some skin in the game, so to speak. But when you don't have the skin in the game, I just don't know what the ripple effect of that is.
Yeah. No, that's what I think. I think that the market, if people are putting a large down payment or paying cash, and the real estate is so scarce in those areas in California, it's not like the same before in the subprime crash. I mean, people were getting 100% financing with no income verification. And so it was a lot different situation, right? I mean,
that you had way more supply on the market at the time, demand wasn't nearly what it was, I mean, in Old Orange County, I looked the other day, I think we had just over 3,300 homes on the market in a county of 3.3 million people. Wow. So what's the math on that? A tenth of 1%. I mean, it's so low. It just shows you how little inventory we have. And in Huntington Beach, where I'm located, we had 192 homes on the market of 210,000 people or something, 205,000 people, which not every person here owns a home, but it's, if you think about the numbers, I mean, that's crazy. It's just not, and that's townhomes, condos, single families. So that's everything. And so you can see why there's such an imbalance at the moment and why things are moving so quickly, just because, I talk to clients all the time and I say, you're in a multiple offer situation on this property in this neighborhood. You're one of, say, 10 buyers. Only one buyer is going to get that. So there's 9 of you left. Well, when the next property comes on that in that neighborhood on the market, if it's similar to this, all 9 of you, chances are going to move to that property. 9 of you plus whoever else comes to the table. Right. So you're basically competing against the same people in a small pocket for the same properties, and you're going to for some time. It's not going to change rapidly. It can't. It just nothing at the moment can. We've had inventory issues since Dodd-Frank. I mean, when they put restrictions on home builders to start, that's what started this whole mess. Is all the restrictions on home builders where they couldn't build, and then you have all the other things that have resulted from that. And it's just everybody thinks that this year is what created the supply issue. It's been an issue for 3 or 4 years. It's just more of an issue now than it was 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah. No, it's you just think that the long term is just going to be more of this? I mean,
I think, again, we talked a little bit before this, and I think interest rates probably are going to stay low for at least the next 3 to 4 years. Let's say 2 to be, on the real side. So through 2022, 2023. And so with that, I think buyer demand is probably going to stay pretty close to that. I mean, you have the largest pool of buyers, which are the millennials, now becoming prime buying age. So you've got all of these people starting to come to the market. They want to be homeowners. So I don't foresee it changing. And then now with this going on, you've got more people really like their home is their castle now. I mean, if you're on a lockdown, or if you've got to work from home, or you've got to whatever, this is where you're going to spend the most time. So you want to be in a place that's comfortable. You want to be in a place where you want to be. You take that and the thought now that all of these people can work remotely, may not ever go back to an office. And, the people that would travel into LA to work, in Los Angeles can now live in Arizona, or they can live in Vegas, or they can live in Dallas and still have the same job, the same income. Why not? Like, it makes a lot of sense why people are moving out of areas into, are flooding different markets. I mean, in some markets where, they haven't had appreciation in 20 years are now appreciating, just because, people are moving, are willing to go outside of their comfort zone now because of the changes and what's happened.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, I mean, it's good information. It's good, great insight. What is your prediction for 2021? Are you seeing just more of the same trend?
I think it looks just like 2020. Personally, I mean, maybe there's some slowdown to some extent. I think, CoreLogic came out and said that their appreciation, I think like October over October was like a 1.9% increase. I'm thinking you're probably, depending on your market, you're going to have some that slow down, but I think overall you're probably going to see what you've seen this year. It might not be 15% in California like it was this year, but it's probably going to be, in the 5 to 10% range, I would think. I mean, I think things are going to continue to kind of move same course.
Now, on the building side, have you seen anything? Because it seems like you follow a lot of stats with like builder start permits in your area.
Building where we are is difficult. There's not a lot of land. Mostly everything that's built here locally is infill property, so very small developments. Maybe 20 properties, 30 properties. There's nothing that's happening that's any larger than that, unless you go to, east or northeast or whatever into the Riverside County, San Bernardino County, and that's a different market than my market. Right. They're slower to appreciate and right. What have you. But even with that said, what I'm hearing more so now is that you still got issues getting permits to build. And some of these issues, lumber is now becoming an issue. Lumber's scarce. Lumber's hard to get. It's just, there's multiple issues. I mean, it's not just one layer of, hey, we need more building. It's okay. We need more building. We need more lumber. We need all of this stuff that essentially we can't get at the moment. So that in itself could slow the development.
Let me ask this. We also lend a lot in New York, where there's a lot of multifamily and co-ops. Do you see any of that happening?
We have multifamily in California is crazy because there's this whole investment idea that's been really booming. I think more so with millennials over the last couple of years than anything else, that people need to start investing in multifamily and get into the game and what have you. So you got a lot of people that want multifamily, but the reality is locally it's hard to justify unless you have a large down payment. It's one of those things to buy a duplex and it's $800,000. How does that make any sense on a monthly cash flow basis? So locally, it's tougher for the multifamily stuff. We don't really have co-ops where we are. Mm-hmm. And there's not really a lot of it being built. I mean, in fact, the market that I'm in, a lot of that's being torn down to build single families because they can buy a lot that's 2 or 3. An 8 unit or a 4 unit or whatever was on 2 or 3 lots. Well, they could tear down those 2 or 3. I mean, that one building and build 2 or 3 single families that are selling for $2.2 million each or whatever it is in the market that I'm in. So, they're just, it's hard to come by. And there's so many people that want to do it that makes it, that much tougher to get a deal on things. Just like, people flipping property. That game is it's not gone, but it's not anything like it was 5 years ago. Right.
And how is the labor, the job market out there right now?
I'm in Orange County, so I'm somewhat, I'll say I'm in a bubble to some extent because there's a lot of wealth, there's a lot of money in Orange County in itself, being in Southern California. So I think I'm less affected, in what I see. But in the stats that I follow, I mean, most of the people that I know have been affected by what's going on right now. Have been people in the restaurant business, people in the service industry, that sort of thing. Most of the people that I knew that were blue collar jobs or doing well financially are pretty much in the same position. I mean, construction, contractor, those guys are probably the busiest. People in the housing industry, if in any regard, whether you're a real estate, mortgage, any tradesperson, you've done probably pretty well this year. I mean, the majority of people that I know have had the best years that they've had. But at the same time, I know people that are suffering. It's hard to say what the actual repercussions are going to be long term. But I do believe there's probably additional stimulus coming that's going to, I don't know if it's, you can say it's going to help people or hurt people or whatever, but the reality is there's probably additional money coming. And I know a lot of people that want to travel. I mean, they want to spend money. Like,
absolutely.
I want to spend money. I want to go out to restaurants. I want to go out and do things. Like, I'm ready for that to happen. So I think, that's one thing that I see is that when if this vaccine does come out, and is effective, then I think you're going to see the labor market come back pretty quickly. The latest stats, I don't know what they came out today, but the unemployment stats, I think the last one that came out was 6.9 million people unemployed, right? They were predicting to end the year somewhere around 9%, somewhere in the 9. So we're well above, whether or not the numbers are fudged or not, whatever you believe. What they reported is that it's in 6.9%. Well, they consider full employment at 6%. Right. So, and that anybody that wants a job more or less has one. So we're pretty close to those numbers. And I realize that that's probably skewed to some regard, but it's always been skewed. So we'll just take it for what it's worth, and say that, I think, you're going to have some more people, that are unemployed because there's going to be more shutdowns and what have you. But I do believe when that vaccine comes out, you're going to have people go back there's a lot of people that want to work, that want to get back out, that want to spend money, that want to travel, that want to do these things that they haven't been able to do. So I think you're going to see, GDP and that sort of thing, affected pretty quickly and probably in a positive way.
Right.
Now, does that mean all the issues are gone? Of course not. But I do think that they're going to keep things low enough for a period of time that it's not going to have this huge effect, right? I mean, the government went through this at one point. They know what they can and can't do, right, and what they need to do. And I think a lot of this is on their shoulders because of what was created to start and how things were locked down and what have you.
Yeah. And I agree. Yeah. I mean, no, this has been you're educating me, man. I need to be more, I can just come to your channel. I don't have to go to Bloomberg anymore. Yeah.
Too funny, man.
Yeah, it's good. I like it. No, it's good. You're offering a lot of insight, especially to a lot of our customers that are in Orange County. So I'm really going to be excited to push this video out to them and share them. And then obviously refer any of my clients out to you. And you've given us a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight. How can they follow you? How can they find you? Where can they look you up on?
Man, just search my name on YouTube, Instagram. I'm all there. And, Instagram is more family stuff. You probably don't want that. But if you want educational stuff on the market, housing, all that, just search my name on YouTube. It's there. Yeah. And, I interact with a lot of people, man. I'm not just there. I mean, I have conversations I have people call me every day, I swear. Yeah. And I'm emailing back and forth with people, talking to people, and I'm getting educated. So, right, it's not just me as a talking head. I'm trying to gain as much information as possible. Sorry about that. To be a better agent and provide useful information.
Yeah. One thing I'll tell you, I noticed that you're very responsive, just like you've been on email, and I can always tell it's a good sign, if the agent is responsive. If it takes an agent 2 or 3 days to get back to you on an email, it's probably not going to work out.
No,
you're right there. Like, we send an email, you respond back, you fire back, and that's a good sign for any of you guys watching this show. And you need someone that's really responsive. In the real estate industry, you're 24/7. You're on your game. You have to be responsive, be alert, and that's a really good sign with you, Jeb, that I really, really like. So,
I appreciate
obviously, we're going to have all of your links, all your stuff on the bottom of our description to YouTube. So I'm really grateful that you spent the time with us. I know you're a very busy man. I'm really appreciative for you being on the show today. And like I said, any of our clients that we approve, we'll definitely connect them out with you. Is there any final words, anything going into 2021 that you want to add?
Just, be patient. I think that could go a lot of different ways, regardless of what you're doing, patience is key. And I'm telling that to myself, right? Because I'm the most impatient person in the world. But I think there's a lot of people right now that are buying just because they feel like they're missing out. I would tell you, be patient.
FOMO.
Not seeing the FOMO, 100%, right? I mean, just wanting to be involved and wanting to be in the conversation of buying and whatever. I would just say, sit back. Things will happen how they're supposed to happen, but don't rush in to do something just because everybody's doing it.
Yeah. We'll end with that. Patience is virtue.
Yeah.
Socrates. So yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Smith, for coming on the show today.